The darkness is getting darker. The light is getting brighter. Are you aware of the signs of the times? The hour is later than you think. Choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh. Shalom, my friends. This is my prophecy update for 2013. Man, I'm telling you, my friends, there is so much going on, and it is speeding up amazingly. But I just, first I want to point at Matthew 24, verse 37. Our Mashiach, Yeshua, tells us that as the days of Noah, so also shall the coming of the bane of Adam be. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the second coming. For as they were in the days before the flood, they, I believe, is referring to the Nephilim, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also shall be the coming of the bane of Adam, Yeshua, HaMashiach, the second coming. And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the second coming. Well, how was it in the days of Noah? One of the primary things going on was terrorism. And I think the main thing, the main reason for the flood was that the Nephilim were they were mating with women. Satan was creating his own race. And if you want to get down to it in more basic terms, we're looking at genetic modification. He was trying to create his own race, and there was a lot of genetic modification going on. And, we're seeing that today for sure with, cloning animals, the genetic modifications of food, the food that most people are eating, especially here in America, food from the supermarkets. It's amazing. Genetically modified greatly. And that's a mirror image of how it was in the days of Noah in terms of genetic modification. Not to mention UFO abductions and the Nephilim mating with women is still going on today in those ways. And I'm not here to get into that. I just want to point out that as it was in the days of Noah, it certainly is right now. I have a little note here. The best way to recognize anything that's counterfeit is not by studying counterfeit stuff. The best way is by studying the real thing. In other words, if you want to learn about counterfeit money, how to recognize it, you do better by studying real money than you do by studying counterfeit money. Because the counterfeit techniques can change, but the real thing doesn't change. And what I'm saying here is, if you're concerned about what's going on in the world, the deceptions of the devil, don't get caught up in studying the deceptions of the devil. That is not going to benefit you. You study the real thing, not the counterfeit. You study this, get into a strong prayer life and a strong relationship with Elohim, and you'll never be fooled by the counterfeit. But if you spend all your time studying the counterfeit, you're more likely to get drawn into the enemy's deception than not. Let's take a look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Shaul, Paul, really the Ruach, the Spirit of our Father, is talking to us through the writings of Shaul. And he says, as to the coming of our Adon, Master, Yeshua HaMashiach, and our gathering together to him, two different things he's talking about there. But he says, we ask you, not to become easily unsettled in mind or troubled either by spirit or word or by letter as if from us, because there were counterfeit letters going around. As if the day of Yahweh has come. Most Bibles you see the day of the Lord. This is a catchphrase in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. The day of the Lord is always referring to the tribulation period. And he's saying, don't be troubled, by these counterfeit things that are going around saying that the tribulation has come. There are people saying that right now, today. We are not in the tribulation period yet, my friends. When we are, there will be no mistake about it. Verse 3, he says, let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first. And that's what I want to focus on here, the falling away, the apostasy. Another good way of looking at apostasy is, or apostates. An apostate is someone who has the written word, but not the living word. You can read the Father's word every day of your life, and you think you're just reading a book. There's no revelation. In my book that I'm getting ready to print and send out to you who have ordered it, Road to Paradise, How to Find the Way, I talk about this in the Greek, it's the Rhema. In the Aramaic Hebrew, it's Meltah. And it's, you can read the book and see the written word and not receive it. Having ears, they don't hear. Having eyes, they don't see. Having hearts, they don't understand. But when your relationship with Elohim grows, then he starts opening your eyes, opening your ears, opening your heart. And the written word becomes the living word. It comes to life. It jumps off the page. Hits you right in the kisser, as I've said before. Apostasy, it's those who, they have the written word, but they don't have the living word. The Father's word is just a book to them. It's not a book at all. It's a supernatural object that's been placed here from outside the time-space continuum. In truth, it comes to life for those who are given eyes that see, ears that hear, and hearts that understand. And that happens through the Father's Ruach. So this falling away is what I'm talking about. Apostasy, in 2 Thessalonians verse 3 there, it's the original Greek word is apo, which has been translated most frequently as apostasy. People falling away from his word, people not recognizing our Adon Yeshua, our Master, the Messiah, the Son of Yahweh. And that's true, that's accurate, but in the Hebrew mindset there's always a number of ways of interpreting something, and all those ways are true. There's another way of looking at the word apo, the falling away, apostasy. And apo is talking about something that's removed from the surface of something that's taken away. And that could be referring to the net chatef, harpazo, rapture, as well. But what I'm focusing on here is my first point, the falling away, apostasy, people turning away from Yeshua. And we see that going on. It's not popular to be a Christian. It's not popular to have a manger scene around the holidays. It's not allowed in the workplace and in schools to have Christian gatherings or meetings. It's okay to have Islamic gatherings or meetings. That's okay. Or homosexuals can meet and have gatherings. That's okay. But no, not concerning the Father's Word. No, no. This is part of that. We're seeing that take place as well in the world. These are prophecies that are unfolding in front of our eyes. And, you know, I mentioned those who have the written word but not the living word. These people pervert the Father's grace through loyalty to other things, especially theories and doctrines. They won't have the living word. They'll only have the written word because they're worshiping the doctrine of some church or religion, or because they're worshiping some philosophical doctrine. I also want to take a look at Isaiah. I want to look at chapter 5. Oops. And verse 20, which reads in the HalleluYah Scriptures, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Calling things that are good, bad. It's not good to be a Christian. It's not good to be into the Father's Word. Oh, it's really not good to be into Bible prophecy. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security that has announced, this was a number of years ago, quote unquote, paraphrase, if you're into Bible prophecy, you are a potential terrorist. Labeling things that are good as though they are bad. Labeling things that are bad as though they are good. Abortion. Homosexuality. These things are being promoted. There's a town in Texas that recently they passed a law that not only your actions but your words, if you speak anything against homosexuality, you're not allowed to run for office. They might take your business away. They might take your house away. It's in the law. It's going against the Constitution. Another point, you know, the Constitution of the United States is designed to limit government, and everybody in Washington, D.C. hates the Constitution because they don't want to be limited. They want to have their freedom and they want to do whatever they want to do. And the Constitution is being broken left and right, you know, over I don't know how many years now. It's ridiculous. Nobody does anything about it. And this is going on in Texas right there where, you know, freedom of speech, forget that. if you say something that you don't, you think homosexuality is wrong, they might take your house away, your business away. You certainly can't run for office, and that goes against the Constitution of the United States. But anyway, you know, calling things that are bad and saying that they're good, taking things that are good and saying they are bad. This is another prophecy, and woe to those who do it. I mean, you know, the tribulation is coming. Hang in there, my friends. I have some really powerful information to share with you. I'm just touching on the tip of the iceberg here right now. You know, calling things bad good. The world presently and very strongly is supporting abortion, murdering babies, same-sex marriage, removing God from public places, removing manger scenes, removing Christian gatherings, sexual immorality to the youth. They're supporting that through the schools, offering contraception, and abortion without parental consent. You know, America is, you know, really started around the 60s when they started removing God, you know, from things, and other things were going on as well, and we saw the Father's berekah, his blessings on America, being removed. But more so since 9/11, America is under the Father's judgment, and that is what 9/11 was. That is why we have been given Obama as a president. America is getting what it deserves. It's turning away from the Father and entering greater darkness. My friends, you are the light through Yeshua. Let your light shine. In terms of what I just glanced over, you know, America since 9/11 is under the Father's judgment. 9/11 was an intended wake-up call delivered from the Father. If you're not sure about that, you need to check out Jonathan Cahn and his book, more than one book now, called The Harbinger, or The Harbinger. I have a link below this this video to I think it's 27 minutes, where Glenn Beck interviews Mr. Cahn. And they cover the points about this. It's all about 9/11. I'm not going to go into the details of that. It would take too much time. Check that video out. Below that link, below this video, you'll also see a link to Jonathan Cahn's books. You click on that link, you'll see all of them. And I urge you to read them. It's amazing stuff about prophecy and the Father's Word and what went on. I think one thing that they don't mention on the TV interview with Glenn Beck is, you know, at 9/11, I'm trying not to get into this because it gets complicated, but and detailed, and I don't want to waste too much time. But at Ground Zero, there on the corner of one of the streets, right there at Ground Zero, there was a chapel. If you go back in time, it is the geographical location of the establishment of America and our covenant with Elohim, conducted by George Washington. There is a sycamore tree there. At 9/11, You know, one thing hit another thing, and that tree, the sycamore tree, was taken down. Things were spoken about that tree, quoting scripture, unknown by those who said them. And their reaction to it was the same reaction that is in the scriptures, unknown to them. They replaced the sycamore tree with a cedar. You know, Jonathan Cahn explains all this in that video and in much greater detail in his book. And what they didn't mention, and this is all prophetic stuff, you know, on levels that you won't believe. You got to check out the video and the books. But what they didn't mention with Glenn Beck is that tree they replaced the sycamore with. They said, you know, we're going to put a tree here that'll be stronger. You know, it's withering. This, you know, how many years has it been? They planted it. It's been withering. And there's a row of bushes near that tree. The bushes that are close to the tree, they're dying. The Father is saying, no, you will not defy me and ignore my wake-up call. Check that stuff out. America is going into greater darkness, my friends, and it's about to get a lot crazier. Let me turn to some other things at this point. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3 talks about Israel, Yisrael, as a burdensome stone, and anyone who tries to move it will be injured. Israel is being surrounded right now big time. And if anyone thinks that Israel will be harmed, they've got another thing coming. Anyone who tries to mess with Israel, the Father will put his thumb on them like they're insects, and they will be injured. Look at Genesis chapter 12, verses 2 and 3 as well. Anyone who speaks a berekah, a blessing on Israel, will be baruk, blessed. Anyone who curses Israel will be cursed. And don't kid yourself. When it comes to Islam and those who hate Israel, if you listen to them, they'll say that they want peace. And they're not kidding. They want peace. But what you have to understand is their definition of peace. They don't elaborate on that. They say, yeah, we want peace with Israel. We really do. Honest. Their definition of peace is, when Israel is wiped off the face of the earth, we'll have peace. That's the peace they want. So you have to understand the Middle Eastern mindset, and the Western people, Americans and our government, they don't have a clue. We'll sit down, we'll talk with them. Yeah, right. We're going to have a talk. They'll understand. No, you don't understand their mindset. They'll sit down and talk with you. They're not going to listen. They'll tell you all kinds of stuff. It's not what you think they're saying. Like when they say, we want peace. They're not telling you they want peace. You know, death to Israel equals peace. They don't tell you that. And the Western mindset, you know, is quite different than the Eastern, and most Western people don't get it. We're looking, you know, everybody wants to know about Ezekiel 38 and Psalm 83. If you want to read a good book about Psalm 83, Bill Salus. Again, below this video I have a link to Bill Salus's book. It's titled Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Bill's an expert on Psalm 83, and he does a real good job of explaining it all. Psalm 83 is what I believe what's next on the horizon is Psalm 83. Ezekiel 38, a lot of people think Psalm 83 and Ezekiel 38 are kind of the same war. Not at all. The countries involved in Ezekiel 38 are not to be seen in Psalm 83, and vice versa. Psalm 83 is an attack on Israel. They want to wipe Israel off the map. They want to eliminate Israel from the face of the earth. And they want to take the promised land back. Ezekiel 38 is quite different, because they're coming against Israel to take Israel's spoils and wealth. They're not trying to wipe Israel out at that point. They want the spoils. What spoils? I think the spoils from Psalm 83, because all those people who come against Israel, they're going to lose. And I think Israel is not only going to win that war, I'm sure of that, but I believe they're going to gain a lot of land, because in Ezekiel 38, which I believe is much later in time, I personally, I think it's after the Net Chetef, and maybe even during the tribulation, but it's later. Psalm 83 is about to happen. And hang in here with me, don't leave, because before this video is over, I have the biggest punchline here to tell you about something that's going on in terms of signs in the heavens, the Shamayim. That could mean that Psalm 83 is about to happen. But Ezekiel 38 is much later. Israel, in Ezekiel 38, Israel is an unwalled city. They put walls up all over the place to keep the Palestinians out and from lobbing their silly rockets over there. When was that? I'm thinking 2000. I'm pretty sure they put the walls up in 2000. In Ezekiel 38, those walls are down. And not only that, Israel is at peace in Ezekiel 38. And the curious thing here is that in Ezekiel, it says that Israel dwells in the midst. And in the Hebrew, that means the very center. And that would point at like Jordan. So I believe Psalm 83 is about to take place. Israel's going to win and take a lot of land and gain back large portions of land. For it to be in the midst of the promised land, Israel is going to be much larger after this Psalm 83 war. Ezekiel 38 is the Gog-Magog invasion. They're there to take great plunder and booty. That means that Israel has great plunder and booty. If you ask me, it's from winning the war that's described in Psalm 83. This is on the horizon big time. I mean, it's happening in front of our eyes on the news. Psalm 83 has been forming and is forming. I just have some notes here. Bill Clinton in 2000 tried to get Israel to give up land for the Palestinians, as did Bush in 2003. And now Obama's doing the same thing. In fact, this very week, they're having meetings trying to come up with a peace solution. And they want Israel to give up more land to support Israel's enemies that are mentioned in Psalm 83. This is not good. It just puts, you know, America in greater danger. You can't come against Israel without being hurt. You know, the UK supported Israel many, many years ago, And they used to say that the sun never set on the UK because the United Kingdom had so many people in so many different places that were under UK rule that the sun never set on any land that belonged to the UK. Well, they came against Israel, and now you look at the UK now, and the sun sets on the UK every day. It's a very small. They lost everything. Well, you know, America, covenant with Elohim, the greatest nation on earth, the biggest supporter of Israel until recently. And America is being taken apart at the seams. Not good. Now here's the punchline about this prophecy update for 2013. There is something very big about to happen. And I'm talking about, really it could be any day now, but specifically 2014 and 2015. First, take a look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And Elohim said, "Let lights come to be in the expanse of the Shamayim to separate the day from the night, and," number 1, "let them be for signs." The Hebrew word there is ot. For signs. And in the HalleluYah Scriptures it says, appointed times. The original Hebrew word there is moedim. Commonly referred to as the feasts. I don't know what they call it. Maybe they call it the Feast of the Lord or something like that, or Jewish holidays. These moedim is the Hebrew word that the Ruach penned in Genesis 1:14. And it does not mean feasts. It has nothing to do with parties or holidays or anything. The HalleluYah Scriptures gets it right. Appointed times. But more specifically, I would say the best English interpretation for Moedim is Yahweh's appointments with mankind. He has appointments with mankind and history. There are the first 4 appointments have been fulfilled. The last 3 appointments have not been fulfilled. Hope I got that right, because I'm not doing a study on that right now. But for example, Pesach, Passover, is not a Jewish holiday. This is one of the Moedim. And it is one of Yahweh's Kodesh appointments with mankind and with history. They did dress rehearsals every year, Passover. They would take the sacrificial lamb, they would slaughter the lamb, go through all these little details. Those are dress rehearsals. The true appointment was fulfilled when Yeshua came, the sacrificial lamb of Yahweh. And on those very hours, all the little details about that dress rehearsal that, the Yahudim, the Jews, practiced every year for so many years, Yeshua fulfilled each and every one of them. There are, as I just read in Genesis 1, the first thing he mentioned about the lights in the Shamayim is that they are for signs. So we want to pay attention to the heavens, the Shamayim, for signs. Now there are blood moons. You may have heard, that the moon will be turned to blood and the sun will be, like black, turned to blackness. This is referring to these oath, the signs in the Ahmein, the moon turning to blood. That's a blood moon. It just gets very red. Now, we have all kinds of blood moons. They happen all the time. And when they do not occur on a specific moedim, they're meaningless. Just happens to be an eclipse or whatever. But when they happen on one of the moedim, it is an oath. It is a sign. The Father is giving us a sign. Well, there are these things called tetrads. Tetra meaning 4, where you have 4 blood moons. 2 in 1 year and 2 in the next year. The first happening on the first moed, and the second happening on the last moed of 1 year, and then right on the first moed of the next year and the last moed of that year, blood moons. On the first and last of the moedim, 2 years in a row, 4 blood moons. This is extremely rare that it ever happens. It happened back in, was it 1493 and 94, where the Jews were kicked out of Spain. You had the Spanish Inquisition. And then it didn't happen again for 457 years. Now once again, below this video, you'll see a link to my good friend Scottie Clarke. He's covered and explained these tetrads way better than I could. So I'm pointing you to go over and look at his. He's got a, I think it's just a 20-minute video that will outline them for you. And then you can go into greater, he's got more videos if you want to go into that. But here, pay attention to this. More recently, in 1949 and 50, we had the tetrads, where we had a blood moon in 1949 that appeared on the first and last moedim of 1949, and then again in 1950 on the first and the last of the moedim, blood moons. 4 of them, 2 years in a row. And the year before that, or even well, about a year before that, in 1947, we had the Jews returning to Israel. This was a major event. They had not been in the homeland for 2,000 years. And the Father gave this. Now, you know, the tetrads happened in 49 and 50, as early as April in 49. So approximately a year or a year and a half earlier than that, the Jews returned. So it's not the kind of a thing like, you know, on this date something's going to happen. No, but on these 2 years, the Father does these tetrads, these signs, unmistakable signs that, you know, before 1949 and 50, it hadn't happened for 457 years. And it happened in 49 and 50, and the Jews returned to their homeland. Everybody was saying that those prophecies were symbolic, you know, at that point, because, you know, after 2,000 years, he must have been kidding, right? No, they did return. Well, then again, 19 years later, hold that thought, we had the tetrads again. Now, this is pretty significant. I mean, in terms of, you know, in the Word it says numerous times, and Yeshua said that once these things begin, they're like a woman in labor. The labor pains happen closer and closer together, and they get more intense. That's what we're seeing here with these tetrads, because there hadn't been any for 457 years. Then there's a Tetrad in 49 and 50, and then again in 1967 and 68. Well, I forget if it was 67 or 68, but in one of those very years, you had the 6-Day War, and the Jews gained their capital, Jerusalem. Yerushalayim. Now, there was 19 years between those two, and now we're having a Tetrad again, 2014, 2015. The first one is on April 15th of 2014. That's the first Moedim of 2014. And on the last Moedim of 2014, on the first Moedim of 2015, and the last Moedim, or Moed of 2015, 4 blood moons on those dates with this Tetrad. 48 years after the last one. And if you look at the two, there was 19 years between the Tetrads of 49 and 50 and 67 and 68, and then 48 years from 67 and 68 to 2014 and 15, and put that together, it says 1948. And that's when the Jews returned to Israel. It was 1 year before. I'm sorry. I thought it was 1947. No, it was 1948. Also, marking 1,948 years from the first Tetrad known up until the last one that we know about in 2014 and 15. Again, 1948. The Father does funny things. The interesting thing about this is, look, 2014 and 15, that's next year and the year after, we have Tetrads. Something very significant and historical is about to happen. It can happen before 2014, just like the Jews returned to Israel in 48, and the Tetrads were in 49 and 50. So it could be any time now. It could be, I feel like it would be Psalm 83. Could be something else. But I'm just, as the watchman on the wall, I'm telling you, something historical is about to happen on the planet Earth. It could be now. It could be next year, 2014. It could be 2015. It could be 2016. But we are staring it in the face. Something extremely historic, especially in reference to Israel, is going to happen. And it could also be the Net Chatef. Because, on top of that, there's another sign in the Shamayim. And if you watch Scottie's videos that I have linked underneath this video, he covers it with the woman clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet and a crown of 12 stars at her head. This is seen in Revelation 12. Scottie covers this beautifully using stellarium, where you can look ahead and see you know, the stars in the skies. And he explains, you know, we saw this, I think it was in 2011, the woman with the sun, clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet. It was there, and it was on a Moedim, and we were all very curious and excited about that. But this one, Scottie discovered with the 12 stars, he really nailed it down. And that looks like it's happening in 2017. Now, what's curious about that is Revelation 12 is talking about the middle of the tribulation. If this sign in the Shamayim with the woman clothed with the sun and the moon at her feet and a crown of 12 stars seen on a Moed in 2017, if that is the mark being spoken of in Revelation 12 mid-trib, then if you back up 3.5 years, because the tribulation is 7 years, we're told that a number of times, whether it's 1260 days or a time, times, and half a time. It's told in a number of different ways where you can't mistake it in the word, that 3.5 years is the half of the 70th week of Daniel. If this sign in 2017 is marking the middle of the tribulation, then you back up 3.5 years, and guess where you wind up? With these tetrads that are happening next year, 2014 and 2015. You could look at that, you know, if that's so, then the tribulation begins around 2014, 2015, 2012, 2016, around there, and the middle of the trib being when this sign appears in 2017 with the woman. So we could be looking at the Netchetef and the beginning of the tribulation, the 70th week of Daniel. This is powerful stuff, my friends. And you don't see me doing prophecy updates very frequently, but this, I think, is extremely significant, and that's why I'm here telling you about it today. Check out Scottie's video, linked below. That'll take you to, I think it's a 20-minute video, maybe even less, and that's part 1. You can follow and go through Scottie's other stuff. He's got more to do. Check out the video with Glenn Beck and Jonathan Cahn about the Harbinger. Harbinger, I forget how they pronounce it. Check out my link to Jonathan Cahn's book. Read the stuff that he's written. Check out the link to Bill Salus's book about Psalm 83. Get into that stuff. I caution you, do not get into studying things that the devil is up to on YouTube or in any other way, shape, and form. Don't study the counterfeit. You'll never be fooled by the counterfeit if you know the real thing. If you study the counterfeit, you will be taken down rabbit holes and fooled. That's it. That's our study for this week. Thank you for supporting this ministry. Thank you for buying my book. Links are below the video. Shalom, my friends.